All right. Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, depending where you are. We are starting today with the Srimad Devi Bhagavatam, Book 5, Chapter 26. This is during the war between Ambika and Kalika Devis and Shumbha and Nishumbha, at the point where Shumbha and Nishumbha have just sent out to the battle their two strongest warriors, Chanda and Munda. Vyasa said, O Raja, thus ordered, the two strong warriors, Chanda and Munda, hurriedly went to the battle, accompanied by a vast army. There they saw the Devi, intent on doing good to the gods. Then they began to address her in conciliatory words, saying, O lady, dost thou not know that the extraordinarily strong Shumbha and Nishumbha, the lords of the Daityas, have crushed down the Devas and vanquished Indra, and have become intoxicated with their victory? O fair one, thou art alone. Only Kalika and thy lion are with thee. It is thy foolishness that thou art desirous to conquer Shumbha, who is endowed with all power. I think there is no adviser to thee, man nor woman. The Devas have sent thee here simply for thy own destruction. Think, O delicate one, over the powers of thine and those of thy enemy. Vainly dost thou boast of thy having 18 hands. Before the great warrior Shumbha, the conqueror of the Devas, your many hands and many weapons will be useless. They will prove mere burdens. So dost thou fulfill what reigns in the heart of Shumbha, the destroyer of the legs and the uprooter of the teeth of Airavata, the divine elephant. Vain is thy boast, O beloved. Follow my sweet words. They will do good to thee, O large-eyed one. They will destroy thy pains and give thee bliss. Those actions that lead to pain are to be avoided by the wise, and those that bring in happiness are to be served by the pundits versed in the Shastras. O sweet-speaking one, thou art clever. Look at the great strength of Shumbha with thy eyes. He has enhanced his glory by crushing down the Devas. And if thou thinkest the Devas superior, that is false. The wise men do not rely on the mere guess full of doubts. They believe what they actually see. Shumbha, hard to be conquered in battles, is the great enemy of the Devas. They have been crushed down by him, and have therefore sent thee here. O sweet smiling one, thou hast been deceived by their sweet words. They, prompted by their selfish ends, have sent thee here simply to give thee trouble. The friends that come with certain business and selfish ends are to be rejected. Friends out of dharmic motives are those to be sought for refuge. In other words, the friends who want to be friends with you out of righteous impulse. Not that demons like Chanda and Munda should be taken as reliable sources of teaching, but that's what he's saying. Verily I tell thee that the Devas are terribly selfish. Therefore dost thou serve Shumbha, the conqueror of Indra and the lord of the three worlds. He is a hero, beautiful, lovely, cunning, and thoroughly expert in the science of amorous love. Thou wilt get the prosperity of all the worlds by the mere command of Shumbha. Therefore make a firm resolve and serve that splendid Shumbha as your husband. Vyasa said, O Raja, the universal mother, hearing the words of Chanda, spoke with a voice deep as thunder. Boor, why do you use false, deceitful words? Fly away now. Why shall I make Shumbha my husband, disregarding Hari, Hara, and the other Devas? Oh, you veritable fool! I have no necessity for a lord. I have got nothing to do with my lord. I myself am the lord of all beings, and I preserve this whole universe with all its lords and beings therein. Know this, in ancient times, I have seen thousands and thousands of Shumbhas and Nishumbhas, and I slew them all. I sent hundreds and hundreds of Daityas and other demons to the realm of death. Before me, the hosts of Devas were destroyed in yugas after yugas. Today, the Daityas again will go unto destruction. The time has come to destroy the Daityas. Why then are you struggling in vain with your followers for your lives? Fight now and keep the dharma of warriors. Death is inevitable. Thinking thus, the high-souled ones should keep their name, fame, and respect. What business have you to do with Shumbha and Nishumbha? Follow the warrior's dharma and go to the heavens, the abode of the gods. Shumbha, Nishumba, and your other friends and followers all will follow you and will come there, no doubt. O stupid one, I will put an end to all the Danavas today. Therefore cast aside your weakness, and come on, fight. I will slay you and your brother now. Next I will kill the proud Rakta Bija, Nishumbha, Shumbha, and the other Danavas on the battlefield, and will then go to whatever place I desire. Now remain here if you like, or run away quickly. You have been fed in vain because you fear to fight. What use is there now in using sweet words like a weak and distressed man? Well, take up your arms and fight. Vyasa said. O Raja, Chanda and Munda, elated with pride, got enraged at the Devi's words and made a violent noise with their bowstrings as kind of a signal of battle. The Devi, too, blew her conch shell so loudly that the 10 quarters of the sky reverberated. In the meanwhile, the powerful lion of the Devi became very angry and roared loudly. Hearing that sound, Indra and other devas, the munis, yakshas, siddhas, and kinnaras became all very glad. A dreadful fight then ensued between Chandika and Chanda, with arrows, axes, and other weapons, causing terror to the weak. The Chandika Devi became very wrathful and cut to pieces all the arrows shot by Chanda, and then hurled arrows serpent-like on him. Then the sky over the battleground seems to be overcast with arrows, just as clouds get covered over with locusts, dreadful to cultivators. In the meanwhile, Munda, exceedingly terrible, came up to the field, bringing with him his army, and becoming impatient with anger, began to shoot arrows. Seeing that multitude of arrows, Ambika got very angry. Her anger, particularly because Munda is trying to flank her while she was engaged with Chanda. Out of her frowning look, her eyebrows became crooked, her face turned black, and her eyes turned red as kadali flowers. At that time, suddenly came out of her forehead Kali, wearing the tiger's skin, cruel, covering her body with an elephant skin. So tiger skin around her waist, elephant skin over her shoulder is the outfit. Wearing a garland of skulls, terrible, with a belly like a dried up well. In other words, like shriveled and emaciated. Mouth wide open, with a wide waist, lip hanging loosely, with axe, noose, and Shiva's weapon, the Pashupatastra, in her hands. She looked very terrible, like the night of dissolution. She began to lick frequently and forcibly dashed into the Danava army and began to destroy it. She angrily began to take powerful Danavas by her arms and pouring them into her mouth, crushed them with her teeth. Taking the elephants with bells by her own power in her hands, she stuffed them into her mouth and swallowed them with their riders and began to laugh hoarsely. Thus camels, horses, and charioteers with their chariots she put into her mouth and began to chew them all grimly. O Raja, seeing that the forces were being thus destroyed, the 2 great warriors, Chanda and Munda, began to shoot arrows after arrows without pause and covered the Devi with them. Chanda hurled the Sudarshan Chakra, lustrous like the sun, with great force against the Devi, and frequently shouted thundering cries. Seeing him roaring and the lustrous disc coming towards her like a second sun, she shot at him arrows sharpened on stones, so that the warrior Chanda became overpowered by them and fell senseless on the ground. The powerful Munda, seeing his brother fall unconscious, became greatly distressed with grief. Getting angry, he began again to shoot arrows immediately on the Devi. Chandika Devi hurled the weapon named Ishikastra, and thus cut to pieces all the dreadful arrows of Munda in a moment, and shot Ardha Chandrastra, the half-moon arrow, or a weapon with a semicircular blade, at him. With this weapon, the powerful Asura was deprived of his pride and made to fall unconscious on the earth. Munda thus lying on the ground, a great uproar arose amidst the army of the Danavas, and the Devas became delighted in the sky. In the meanwhile, Chanda became conscious, and taking a very heavy club, hurled it violently on the right hand of Kalika. Kalika rendered that blow useless and instantly tied down that Asura by her Pasha weapon. That's a binding weapon, purified by mantras. Munda again rose up, and seeing his brother in that fastened condition, came to the front, well armored and with an exceedingly strong weapon called Shakti, the javelin or throwing spear. Seeing the Asura coming, she instantly fastened him down like his brother, with the Pasha again. Taking the powerful Chanda and Munda like trapped hares and laughing wildly, Kali went to Ambika and said, I have brought the two beasts, very auspicious as offerings in this sacrificial war. Or sacrificial war, the term that she uses is Yudha Yajna, or referring to the entire war as a vast blood sacrifice to herself. Kindly accept these. Seeing the two Danavas brought as if they were two wolves, Ambika told Kali sweetly, O thou fond of war, thou art very wise, so dost not commit the act of envy, nor dost leave them. Think over the purport of my words and know that it is thy duty to bring the Deva's work to a successful issue. Vyasa said, O Raja, hearing thus the words of Ambika, Kalika spoke to her again. In this war sacrifice, this Yudha Yajna, there is this axe, which is like a sacrificial post. I will offer these two as victims in sacrifice to thee. Thus no act of envy will be committed. Thus saying, the Kalika Devi cut off their heads with great force and gladly drank their blood. Thus seeing the two Asuras killed, Ambika said gladly, Thou hast done the service to the gods, so I will give thee an excellent boon. O Kalika, as thou hast killed Chanda and Munda, henceforth thou wilt be renowned in this world by the name Chamunda. And here ends the 26th chapter of the 5th book on the killing of Chanda and Munda in Srimad Devi Bhagavatam, the Mahapuranam of 18,000 verses by Maharshi Veda Vyasa. Chapter 27. Vyasa said, O Raja, seeing the two Danavas killed in the battle, the remaining soldiers all fled away back to Shumbha. Some of them were cut and wounded in many places by arrows. Some had their arms severed and were bleeding. Thus they entered crying into the city. On reaching the lord of the Daityas, they began to make frequently noises indicative of danger and exclaimed, O Raja, save us, save us. Kalika is devouring everything. The two great warriors, Chanda and Munda, tormentors of the Devas, were slain by her. All the soldiers were devoured by her. We have fled away panic-stricken. O Lord, Kalika has rendered the battlefield horrible, with the dead bodies of elephants, horses, camels, warriors, and foot soldiers. A river of blood is flowing there, of which the flesh of soldiers makes sufficient mud, their hairs like aquatic plants, broken chariot wheels like whirlpools, still spinning where they broke, in other words. The severed arms and feet are like fishes, and their heads look like tumbi fruits. O Raja, save your line. Go quickly to Patala. The Devi has become angry and will no doubt destroy our race. Even the lion is eating away the Danavas, and the Kalika Devi is killing innumerable Danavas by her arrows. Therefore, O Raja, what intentions do you cherish in your mind? Is it that you have desired to be merely slain with your younger brother Nishumbha? And what good purpose will this cruel woman destroying your race serve, for whose sake you have desired to kill all your friends? O Raja, victory or defeat in this world are under the Deva, or the force of destiny. The wise never risk to meet with great difficulties for the gratification of an ordinary whim. O Lord, look at the wonderful deeds of that great creator. What more wonder can there be than this, that a woman alone killed all the Danavas? O Raja, you have conquered by the help of your army all the Lokapalas, but now that lady, alone and unsupported by anybody, is challenging you to fight. O Raja, in ancient times, in the holy pilgrimage site of Pushkara, the sacred place of the Devas, you performed austerities, and Brahma, the grandsire of all the worlds, came to you to grant a boon. Then you asked the boon. You wanted to become immortal. But when Brahma refused to grant it, you wanted from him and were granted, that you could not be killed by any male being, be he a Deva, Danava, a human, Naga, Kinnara, Yaksha, or any other type of person. O Lord, for that very reason we think now that this lady has timely come to kill you. Think it over seriously and cease fighting. O Raja, this Devi is the great Mahamaya, the highest Prakriti. It is she that devours everything at the end of a kalpa. This auspicious Devi is the creatrix of all the worlds and the Devas. She is the embodiment of the three gunas, endowed with all powers. She is Tamasi, the destructrix of the world. This Devi can never be conquered. Imperishable, eternal, she is the Sandhya and the refuge of the Devas. She is Gayatri, the mother of the Vedas. She is all-knowing and always manifested. This undecaying lady is void of any prakritic attributes, though she at times possesses attributes. In other words, attributes are something that she wields rather than something that is involuntarily inherent to her. She is success incarnate and bestows success to all. She is bliss herself and gives bliss to all. This Gauri bids all the devas discard their fears. She is Shuddha Sattva. Thus knowing, O Raja, quit thy inimical feelings toward her. Seek refuge unto her. The Devi would then certainly protect you. Be obedient to her and save your race. Then the remaining Danavas will be able to live for a very long time. Vyasa said, O Raja, hearing thus, Shumbha, conqueror of the Devas, told them in words befitting a hero, O fools, hold your tongue. You have fled because your desire to live is very strong. So you had better go to Patala without any delay. This world is under the control of fate, so I need not think about victory or defeat. I am under this fate just as Brahma and other devas are under it. Brahma, Vishnu, Rudra, Yama, Agni, Varuna, Surya, Chandra, and Indra, all are under the sway of this destiny. O fools, whatever is inevitable will certainly come to pass. What need I think over the outcome then? The effort also comes to be of such a nature as will lead to that ordained by fate. Thus thinking, the wise never grieve. Especially the wise ones never leave their own dharma for fear of death. Happiness, pain, longevity, the birth and death of all embodied souls are all determined by fate when the proper time arrives. See, when the time is over, Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahadeva, the Lord of Parvati, shall die away. On the expiration of their terms of lives, Indra and other devas too go to destruction. Similarly, I am also completely under the sway of time. So what doubt is there that I too will go to destruction when I have observed my own dharma? This lady is challenging me to fight of her own will. How can I run and live hundreds of years? I will fight today. Let the result come whatever it may be. I will gladly take victory or defeat. The learned approving of the cause of effort declare fate as fictitious. Those who realize their sayings know that they are full of reason. Without exertion, no end can be achieved. Weak persons depend on destiny. Foolish persons say that fate is strong, but the wise do not say so. There is no proof whether fate exists or not. In fact, what is called fate is invisible. Has anybody seen fate? It is simply a scare for the illiterate, a remedy only to console one's mind in times of distress. Simply proximity to a grind mill without any man's effort will not grind the material. Therefore, if exertion be made in proportion to the gravity of the work, success is sure to ensue. If exertion be made in lesser proportion, the work does not come to a successful issue. If time, place, and one's enemy's forces be correctly taken into account, and then if the proper attempts be made, success follows. Thus even Brahaspati, the Deva's guru, has said. Vyasa said, O Raja, thus making a firm resolve to send the powerful Rakta Bija to battle with a vast army, Shumbha said, O Rakta Bija, you are a very powerful hero. Therefore do you go to the battle. O fortunate one, fight, as you are the strength of your forces. Rakta Bija said, O Raja, you need not be a bit anxious for this work. Certainly I will either slay her or I will bring her under your control. See my skill in this warfare. That lady, favorite of the Devas, is worth nothing. I will conquer her and make her your slave. Vyasa said, O best of gurus, thus saying, the powerful Rakta Bija mounted on his chariot and went to the battle, accompanied by his forces. The battalion consisted of cavalry, infantry, chariots, and elephants. Thus surrounded, he departed from the city for that Devi, seated on a mountaintop. Then the Devi, seeing him coming, blew her conch shell. The Danavas were terrified at that sound, and the joy of the Devas increased. Hearing that sound, Rakta Bija came very hurriedly to Chamunda and began to speak to her sweetly. O girl, he said, do you think me weak and thus want to terrify me with the sound of a conch shell? O lean one, have you taken me to be a Dhumra Lochana, a demon she has already defeated? O sweet-speaking one, my name is Rakta Bija. I have come here for thy sake. If thou desirest to fight, be prepared. I am not a bit afraid of that. O dear one, you saw those who were weak. I do not belong to their class. Therefore dost thou fight as thou likest, and then thou wilt be able to ascertain my strength. O beautiful one, if thou didst serve the old persons before, if thou hadst heard the science of politics and morals, if thou hadst studied the political economy, joined the assemblage of the pundits, or if thou hast been well versed in literature and tantras, then hear this, my good counsel, which will serve as a medicinal diet to thee. Out of the 9 sentiments, the Sringara, or sentiments of amorous love, and Shanti, or peace, are considered as the chief by the assemblage of the pundits. Again, out of these 2, the love sentiment, Sringara Rasa, is the king of emotions. Drenched with this emotion, Vishnu lives with Kamala. Brahma, the four-faced, lives with Savitri, another name of Saraswati. Indra with Shachi, and Shankara resides with his wife Uma. The tree stands with creepers surrounding it. The deer lives with his female deer. The pigeon lives with the female pigeon. Or technically the Sanskrit word there would mean dove. Thus all the beings are very attached to this sentiment of remaining in couples. Those who cannot enjoy owing to certain disease or illness are deprived by fate of such enjoyments. Those who are ignorant of this love sentiment in couples are deprived of it by the sweet jugglery of words of the cheat, and yet they are still attached to the attitude of peace, or Shanti Rasa. When delusion, the destroyer of buddhi or common sense, occurs, when the violent, indomitable anger, greed, and lust arise, where then is the place for knowledge and dispassion? Therefore, O auspicious one, dost thou marry the beautiful Shumbha or the powerful Nishumbha? Vyasa said, O Raja, when Raktabija spoke these words standing before the Devi Kalika, Ambika and Chamunda both began to laugh. And here ends the 27th chapter of the 5th book on the description of the coming to war of Raktabija in Srimad Devi Bhagavatam, the Mahapuranam of 18,000 verses by Maharshi Veda Vyasa. Chapter 28. Vyasa said, O Raja, the Devi, hearing thus, laughed and spoke the following reasonable words in a voice deep as the rumbling cloud. O dull-brained one, already I told to that messenger before you. Why then do you still boast in vain? If there be any such in the 3 worlds who can stand equal to me in appearance, strength, and prosperity, I will marry him. Go to Shumbha and Nishumbha and inform them that thus I promised before. Therefore let any of them conquer me in battle and then marry me according to the prescribed rites. You have come here to execute the order of Shumbha, to either stand up and fight or fly to Patala with your king. Vyasa said, O Raja, hearing the Devi's words, the Danava was filled with anger and began to shoot dreadful arrows at once upon her lion. Ambika then, ready-handed, seeing the multitude of arrows coming in the sky like serpents, cut them down in a moment by her sharp arrows. The Devi then, drawing her bow, shot arrows sharpened on stones at the Mahasura Raktabija. Then that wicked demon, thus shot at by her arrows, fell unconscious on the chariot. When he lay thus senseless, a great uproar arose amidst his army, and the soldiers began to cry aloud, saying, Alas, we all are killed. Then Shumbha, Raja of the Asuras, hearing the sound of Boomba, a danger cry by the hands and mouth, ordered all the Danavas to be ready for the battle. Then Shumbha said, let all Kambojas go to the battle with all their forces. Let other powerful heroes, especially the Kalakeyas too, who are very strong heroes, go and join the battle. So the Kambojas are the, it's a certain people. There's actually 2 separate peoples called the Kambojas. One are the Cambodians. The country of Cambodia is actually directly from the Sanskrit Kamboja, which was anglicized as Cambodia. But here there was fairly far geographically separated from Cambodia. There's also Kambojas in northwest India, and even further northwest in what became called the Hindu Kush Mountains, and all the way up into Tibet and Ladakh. And those are most likely the Kamboja Asura worshipping tribes, which is why there are Asuras in the army of, or Kambodjas in the army of Shumba and Nishumpa. Kalakeyas, on the other hand, are not tribal worshippers. They are a type of Asuras. They are the darkest, foulest, most tamasic variety, most demonic variety of Asuras. Vyasa said, O Raja, thus ordered, all the fourfold army of Shumbha, cavalry, infantry, elephants, and chariots, went out, intoxicated for war, to the battleground where the Devi resided. The Devi Chandika, seeing the Danava reinforcements coming near, at once made terrible sounds frequently. The Ambika Devi also made the sound with her bowstring and blew her conch shell. Kali then shouted aloud, opening her mouth widely. The powerful lion, the Devi's Vahana, hearing these terrible sounds, roared so loudly that the Danavas were struck with strange terror. The powerful Danavas then, hearing that sound, became impatient with anger and shot arrows after arrows on the Devi. A wonderful and horrible battle then resumed, causing horripilation, which is hair standing on end. And the Shaktis of Brahma and the other Devas began to come to Chandika Devi to join her on the field. The Devis, the wives of the several Devas, then went to the battlefield. So that's separate from the Shaktis of the Devas and the wives of the Devas, which are two separate things. All went to join the battle. All female divinities. The Devis went in their respective forms with ornaments and vahanas, as they generally do on such occasions. The Shakti of Brahma, named Brahmani, mounted on the back of her swan, came there with a string of beads and kamandalu pot. The kamandalu pot is considered the weapon of Brahmins in that the water from it is used to cast curses. That's why she would bring it to battle. The Vaishnavi Shakti, with her yellow robes, came there mounted on Garuda, the sacred bird of Vishnu, with conch, discus, club, and lotus in her four hands. The Devi Shankari, wife of Shiva, the auspicious one, arrived on the back of her bull. The emblem of the half moon was on her forehead, while in her hands she held a snake, a bracelet, and a trishula or trident, and made the sign of fearlessness for her devotees. The beautiful wife of Kartika, Kaumari Devi, looking like her husband Kartika, came to fight there mounted on a peacock. The fair-faced Indrani, or Shachi Devi, decked with ornaments on her several limbs, came there to fight, with thunderbolt in her hand, mounted on the elephant Airavata. The Varahi Devi, a female boar, came also, seated on an elevated seat of corpses. The Narasinghi, resembling Narasimha, came there. This is also known as Pratyangira Devi, somewhat famous or infamous Devi of black magic, one of the most dangerous of all the tantric goddesses. The wife of Yama, looking as fearful as Yama himself, arrived there on the battlefield, smiling, with a staff in her hand, mounted on the back of a buffalo. Similarly, the wives of Kubera, Varuna, and other devas came there with their proper forms, vahanas, ornaments, accompanied by their forces, their female forces specifically, all excited for battle. Seeing them all, the Devi Ambika became glad. The devas too became peaceful or felt reassured of victory and expressed their great joy. The Danavas were afraid at the sight of them. Shankara, auspicious to all beings, came there to the battlefield, surrounded by these goddesses, and he said to Chandika, "Slay quickly all these asuras, Shumbha, Nishumha, and all the other Danavas, to serve the cause of the Devas. Let all the goddesses destroy the Danava race and thus free the world from dangers. They may then return to their own abodes. Let the Devas get back their shares of yajnas. Let the Brahmanas perform their sacrificial acts, and let all the creatures, moving or unmoving, be happy. Let all calamities, such as proceed from drought, excessive rain, rats, foreign invasion, locusts, and plagues of birds, bats, etc., come to an end. Let the clouds bestow rains regularly, and let the cultivation yield ample harvests." Vyasa said, O Raja, when Shankara, the lord of the gods and auspicious to all, said this, a wonderful female emerged out of the body of Chandika, very furious, horrible, with hundreds of jackals surrounding her and yelling. That Shakti of dreadful appearance spoke to the five-faced Shiva, smiling, O Deva of the Devas, go quickly to the Lord of the Daityas, do the duty of a messenger for us, O destroyer of lust. O Shankara, tell that haughty and lustful Shumbha and Nishumbha, leave the Svarga and go to Patala. Let the Devas reign in the heavens. Indra retake his own beautiful throne. Let all the Devas go to their appropriate places in heaven and receive their sacrificial offerings duly. And if the Asuras desire to live, let them go quickly to their cities in Patala, where other Danavas are dwelling. Else, if they would like to die, let them come quickly to the battlefield, and let their flesh be eaten up by my jackals. Vyasa said, O Raja, hearing her words, Shulapani, a name of Shiva, went quickly to Shumbha, lord of the Danavas, seated in assembly, and said thus, O Raja, I am Hara, the destroyer of the Tripurasuras. Now I have come to you for your good as a messenger of Ambika Devi. Quit the heavens and the earth, and go quickly down to Patala, where reside the powerful Bali and Prahlada. Or if you would like to court death, then go to the battle. So he's repeating the words of the Devi, that she said, I will slay you all in a moment. O Raja, the great Queen Ambika Devi has sent me with these instructions for your welfare and information. Vyasa said, O Raja, thus conveying the nectar-like beneficial words of the Devi to the chief Daityas, Shiva, the Trishuladhara, holder of the trident, returned to his own place. The Shakti that sent Shambhu as a messenger to the Danavas is known in the three worlds as Shiva Duti, or she who is served by Shiva as his messenger. The Daityas, thus hearing the vigorous words of the Devi, put on their coats of armor and taking their bows and arrows quickly went out to fight. They came with great force to the battlefield, stretched their bows to their ears and shot piercing arrows sharpened on stones and tipped with iron at the Chandika Devi. The Kalika Devi too began to strike some with her trident, some with her Shakti spear, some with clubs, and rent them asunder and devoured them all, and began to roam on the field. Brahmani began to pour water from her Kamandalu, as I mentioned before, on the powerful Danavas in the battlefield, and thus destroyed them with the curses in her water. Maheshwari, mounting on her bull, gave violent blows by her trident, and thus laid demons dead on the ground. Vaishnavi, with the blow of her club, took away the lives of many Daityas, and striking them with her discus, cut off the heads of several others. Indrani hurled her thunderbolt on the chief Danavas, already struck by the feet of her elephant, and lay them dead on the field. Narasinghi tore the strongest Danavas with her sharp nails, and devouring them, walked to and fro and made dreadful sounds. Shivaduti, the queen of jackals, began to laugh hoarsely and laid the Danavas flat on the field, whence they were at once devoured by Kalika and Chandika. So even Chandika, not the Kali form, but Chandika, the form of Durga, is here eating fallen asuras alive where they fell on the ground in an extremely wrathful mood. Komani, seated on a peacock, by drawing the bowstring to her ears, hurled arrows sharpened on stones on her enemies and killed them to serve the cause of the gods. Varuni tied down the Danavas by her pasha weapons in face-to-face fighting. So in other words, in face-to-face fighting means she was binding them, not shooting a weapon as an arrow, but wielding a pasha, it's a snake actually, wielding a snake with her hands, was wrapping it around Danavas and binding them. Thus they lay down senseless on the ground. O Raja, thus the Matrikas, the Matrika Devis, crushed the forces of Shumbha and Nishumbha. Then the other powerful soldiers, who had not yet fallen to the Matrikas, fled terrified. The Bumba danger cry rose then loudly. On the other hand, the Devas began to shower flowers on the Devis. Hearing the distressed agonies of the Asuras and the shouts of victory of the Devas, Rakta Bija, the chief of the Danavas, became very angry. evidently having recovered from having been stunned unconscious earlier. Seeing the Danavas flying away and the Devas shouting, that powerful demon came hurriedly back up to the battlefield with anger. Then, with eyes reddened with rage, and with various weapons, he came before the Devi, mounted on a chariot, making unusual sounds with his bowstring. And here ends the 28th chapter of the 5th book on the description of the fighting of the goddesses and Srimad Devi Bhagavatam, the Mahapuranam of 18,000 verses by Maharshi Veda Vyasa. Chapter 29. Vyasa said, O Raja, please hear attentively about the extraordinary boon that was given by Mahadeva, the god of gods, to the great warrior Raktabija. So we've already heard this in previous chapters, but since it's about to become relevant, he's recapping it. Whenever a drop of blood from the body of that great warrior will drop on the surface of the earth, immediately will arise innumerable Danavas equal in form and power to him. Thus the Deva Rudra granted the demon that wonderful boon. Thus elated with the boon, he entered into the battlefield with great force in order to kill Kalika and Ambika Devi. Seeing the Vaishnavi Shakti, lotus-eyed, seated on the bird Garuda, the demon Raktabija struck her with a violent Shakti weapon. She baffled the weapon with her club, turned it aside, and hurled the Sudarshana Chakra on the Mahasura Raktabija. Thus struck by the chakra, blood began to ooze out from his body as the red stream, like the red stream of soft red sandstone comes out of a mountaintop. Wherever on the surface, so in other words, if water is flowing through red sandstone and picks up the red color in the sediment, that's the description being drawn there. Wherever on the surface of the earth drops of blood fell from his body, then and there sprang out thousands and thousands of demons like him. Indrani, the wife of Indra, became very angry and struck the terrible Raktabija with a thunderbolt. Streams of blood oozed from his body. No sooner did the drops of blood fall from the demon's body than were instantaneously born from the blood many powerful asuras of similar forms, having similar weapons, and each of them hard to be conquered in battle. Brahmani, thus becoming enraged, struck at him with the staff of Brahma with greater force. Maheshwari rent the Danava asunder with her trident. Narasinghi pierced the asura with her nails. Varahi bit him with her teeth. Or I'm guessing that what's meant by teeth, given that she's a boar, is her tusks. Gored him with her tusk. Then the Danava, becoming angry, shot at them all with sharpened arrows and pierced them all. Thus, when the Matrika Devis were pierced and struck by the clubs and various other weapons of that great Asura, now in a vast multitude, they got very angry and pierced the Danavas in return with arrows. Kaumari, too, struck at Raktabija's breast with her Shakti weapon. The Danava then got angry and hurled on them multitudes of arrows and began to pierce them, overwhelming them with his rapidly multiplying numbers. O Raja, the Chandika Devi, getting angry, cut his weapons into pieces and violently shot at him other arrows. O Raja, thus struck by severe blows, and blood began to flow in more and more profuse quantities from his body, thousands and thousands of Danavas resembling Raktabija sprang out instantly from it, so much so that the heavens were all covered over with Raktabijas that sprang up from the blood. They were all covered all over their bodies with coats of armor, and began to fight terribly with weapons in their hands. Then the Devas, seeing that the innumerable Raktabijas were striking the Devis, became greatly frightened and distressed with sorrow. They began to talk with each other with sorrowful countenances, but thousands and thousands of huge-bodied warriors were springing from the sprays of blood upon the earth. These were all very powerful. How could they be destroyed? In this battlefield, there were now left only the Matrikas, Kalika, and Chandika. It would certainly be extremely difficult for them to conquer all these Danavas. In other words, all the lesser Devis who had gone with them to battle have all died. And if at that moment Shumbha and Nishumbha were to join them with their army, certainly a great catastrophe would occur. Vyasa said, O Raja, when the Devas were thus extremely anxious, out of terror, Ambika Devi said to the lotus-eyed Kali, O Chamunda, open out your mouth, and no sooner I strike Raktabija with weapons You must drink off the blood as fast as it runs from his body. Instantly I will kill those Danavas sprung from the blood with sharpened arrows, clubs, swords, and mushalas, and you will then be able to devour them all at your will, and roam in the field as you like. The large-eyed one, you must drink off all the jets of blood in such a way that not a drop of it falls on the ground. And when they will all be devoured, no more Danavas will be able to spring. Thus they will surely be extirpated, otherwise they can never be destroyed. Let me begin to strike blows on Raktabija, and you quickly drink all the blood, being intent on destroying his forces. O Chamunda, thus the Danavas being exterminated, we will hand over to Indra, the lord of the Devas, his heavens, without any enemy, and thus we can go peacefully and happily to our own places. Vyasa said, O Raja, the Chamunda Devi, of furious strength, hearing thus the Devi's words, began to drink the jets of blood coming out of the body of Raktabija. The Devi Ambika began to cut the demon's body into pieces, and Chamunda, of thin belly, or portraying her as always extremely hungry, emaciated with starvation, and like vampirically ravenous for blood, went on devouring them. Then Raktabija, becoming angry, struck Chamunda with his club. But though she was thus hurt severely, she drank off the blood and devoured all his limbs. O Raja, thus Kalika Devi drank off the blood of all the other powerful wicked Danava Raktabijas that sprang out of his original blood sprays. Thus Kalika and Ambika together destroyed them. Thus all the Danavas created out of the blood were devoured, and then there was left lastly only the real Raktabija. Ambika Devi then cut him asunder into pieces by her axe, and thus killed him. Thus when the dreadful Raktabija was slain in the battle, the remaining Danavas fled away trembling with fear. Without any weapons, covered all over their bodies with blood, and almost void of consciousness, they uttered dumbly and confounded, Alas, alas, what has happened? What has happened? Thus crying, they told their Raja Shumbha thus, O King of Kings, Ambika Devi has killed Raktabija and Chamunda has drunk off all his blood. The Vahana of Devi, the powerful and ferocious lion, killed other powerful warriors, and Kali devoured the remaining soldiers. O Lord of the Danavas, we have fled and come to you to give the news of the battle, and to describe the wonderful doings of that Chandika Devi in the battlefield. O Raja, in our opinion, no one will be able to conquer that lady, be he Daitya, Danava, Gandharva, other type of Asura, Yaksha, Pannaga, Charana, Raksha, or Uraga. O Raja of Rajas, the other goddesses, Indrani and others, have come to the battle on their own mounts respectively, and are fighting with various weapons. O Lord of the Danava forces are all slain by them, with the excellent weapons in their hands. Even Raktabija has been slain quickly. That lion of indomitable prowess killed the Rakshasas in the battle. The Devi alone is hard to conquer. How much more would it be impossible to conquer her when she has been joined by other goddesses? So consult with the ministers and do it as reasonable. In our opinion, it is better to make treaty with her and quit our enmity. O Raja, think over the fact that the lady has destroyed all the Danavas and drank off the blood of Raktabija and killed him. What on earth can be more wonderful than this? O Raja, the Devi Ambika killed all the other Daityas and Chamunda devoured their blood, flesh, and all. Considering all this, it is now better for us to serve the Devi Ambika or else fly away to Patala. No more fighting is desirable. She is not an ordinary woman. She is Mahamaya. There is not the least doubt in this. Only to serve the cause of the Devas, she has manifested herself and is now destroying the Rakshasas race. Vyasa said, hearing thus, Shumbha got confounded by Kala, meaning both time and death, as his end was coming nigh, and said the following words, his lips quivering with anger. You are struck with fear, so you all take the refuge of Chandika or fly down to Patala, but I will kill her with all my exertion and effort. I conquered all the hosts of the Devas, and I have enjoyed their kingdoms. Shall I now, out of the fear of one lady, fly and enter back into Patala? All my attendants, Raktabija and other heroes, are now slain in the battle. And is it possible that I will now fly away out of the sake of preserving my life only, when they laid down their lives? See, the death of all the beings is ordained by Kala, and it is unavoidable. No sooner a being is born, he is liable to the fear of death. How can a man then, out of fear of death, quit all his name and fame, when death is inevitable regardless. O Nishumbha, he addresses his brother, I will now go immediately to the battle, mounting on my chariot, and I will return only after slaying her in battle. And if I cannot kill her, I will not return. O best of warriors, better stand at my side with all your forces, and we shall kill that lady in no time with sharp arrows. And Nishumbha replied, Today I too will go to the battle, and slaying that Kalika, will shortly return here with Ambika. O Raja, he addresses his brother, do not think at all for that lady. See my world-conquering strength, and look at that weak woman. There is a vast difference. Cast aside this, your great mental anxiety and trouble, and enjoy, O brother, all excellent things. I will bring that dignified lady with all honors before you. O Raja, you ought not to go to the battle when I am alive. The younger brother says to the elder. I will presently go to the fight and bring for you that lady as a sign of our victory. Vyasa said, O Raja, thus saying, the younger brother, proud of his own strength, went hurriedly to the battlefield, mounting on his big chariot. He was protected all over his body by his coat of armor, and he was well provided with various weapons and all other accoutrements of war. The bards began to sing hymns to him, and various other propitious ceremonies were performed. And here ends the 29th chapter of the 5th book on the killing of Raktabija in Srimad Devi Bhagavatam, the Mahapuranam of 18,000 verses by Maharshi Veda Vyasa. Chapter 30. Vyasa said, O Raja, thus making a firm resolve that there would be either victory or death, the great warrior Nishumbha went to fight with the Devi, with great excitement and with all his forces. Shumbha too, the lord of the Daityas, accompanied by his forces, went after Nishumbha. So the younger brother said, wait here, I'll go do it, and he went. But then the elder brother didn't wait for him and went after him. Shumbha knew full well the rules of warfare, therefore he remained a witness there to watch his younger brother fight first. Indra and the other devas and yakshas all stationed themselves in the celestial space, eager to see that fight, covered with clouds. They were covered with clouds, in other words, they were watching from hidden in the clouds. Nishumbha came to the field, and, taking the strong bow made of horn, began to shoot arrow after arrow at the divine mother with the object of frightening her. Seeing Nishumbha with his excellent bow shooting arrows, Chandika began to laugh frequently. With a soft, slow voice, she spoke to Kalika, O Kali, see their foolishness. They have come before me courting death. They are so much deluded by my Maya that they yet expect victory when they have already witnessed the death of Raktabija and many Danavas. Hope is so very strong that it never quits a man. How wonderful is this, that some of their armies are destroyed, some are wounded, many of their soldiers are rendered senseless or made powerless, some have fled. Seeing all these, yet they have come to fight, as it were, fastened by the cord of hope of victory. O Kali, today I will certainly slay Nishumbha and Shumbha. Their death is nigh. Deluded by the Devi Maya, they have come to me. Therefore, in the face of all the Devas, I will kill them today. Vyasa said, O Raja, thus saying, so in a slow and relaxed way she said this, but then suddenly drawing her bow, Chandi covered Nishumbha in front all over by a multitude of arrows. Nishumbha too cut down those arrows to pieces with his own sharp arrows. Thus the fight became more and more dreadful between them. At this time, the lion of Bhagavati came down upon the forces, quivering his mane like a powerful elephant splashing into a lake. By his nails and teeth, he tore asunder the bodies of the Danavas that fell before him and devoured them as if they were infatuated elephants. That lion, thus crushing down the soldiers, Nishumbha came forward hurriedly, drawing his excellent bow. Hundreds of other generals of the Danavas came up there to kill the Devi, biting their lips and with their eyes reddened with anger. In the meantime, Shumbha struck Kalika and came there very hurriedly with his forces to capture the Divine Mother. Coming to the battlefield, Shumbha saw that the Divine Mother was standing before him. Though she was looking very beautiful, fit as it were for sentiments of love, yet she was filled also with the sentiment of fiery wrath. At that time, the large eyes of Bhagavati, the most beautiful in the three worlds, though they were naturally red, looked even more red due to her wrath. When Shumbha saw her lovely features, the desire to marry her and the hope of victory all vanished away from his mind, and he stood there with his bow in his hand, firmly knowing in his mind that he was about to die. Seeing the Danava in that state, she smiled and began to say, so that all the Danavas could hear, "Wretched fools, if you want to live, throw down all your weapons, go to Patala or to the middle of the ocean, or be slain in the battle by my arrows, and go to the heavens and enjoy there without any fear all the enjoyments and sports there. Weakness and heroism cannot both be expected at one and the same time and in the same person. I am ordering you to dispel your fears. Now go wherever you find your ease and happiness, either retreating to live in peace or to remain in the battle and die." Vyasa said, "O Raja, hearing these words of the Devi, that haughty Nishumba ran forward, holding in his hand the sharpened axe and shield adorned with 8 chandras, or moon-shaped embossments on the shield. And first he struck with his sword violently the proud lion. Then, whirling with that great force, he swung his sword upon the Divine Mother. The Devi thwarted off the blow of the sword by her club and struck at his arm with her parashu, her axe. The warrior Nishumbha thus struck at his arm. His arm was cut by her axe. He patiently bore the pain of it and struck at Chandika by his axe. The Devi then made such a terrible noise of bells that all the Daityas were struck with terror. As I have mentioned before, it's a well-known thing that asuras are disrupted and mentally harmed by the ringing of bells. So by the ringing of her bells, all the Daityas were struck with terror. Then she, desiring to kill Nishumbha, began to drink nectar. O Raja, thus the terrible fight went on between the Devas and Danavas, each trying to defeat the other party. They began to dance in the battlefield, cruel, voracious dogs, jackals, vultures, herons, crows, and other birds, very much gladdened at the great feast of corpses. The battlefield was drenched with blood and the dead carcasses of innumerable Danavas, elephants, and horses. Nishumbha then, seeing the Danavas dead on the field, became very angry and ran forward with his terrible club, closing again with the Devi. That proud asura struck the head of the lion with that club, and laughing again and again, struck the Devi with his club. The Devi too got very angry, glaring at Nishumbha before her and striking at her. And she cried, "Stupid one, wait till I sever your head from your body by this axe. Soon you will be sent unto death with your head severed from your body." Thus saying, the Chandika Devi instantly cut off the head of Nishumbha by her axe, with great care, or with great focus. The head thus severed from the body by the blow of the Devi, the headless demon began to stagger with great force, with his club still in his hand. The Devas then got very much frightened, seeing him still standing, though headless. The Devi then cut off the hands and feet of that headless demon with sharpened arrows. That vicious wretch finally fell down lifeless on the ground like a mountain. The powerful Daitya Nishumbha being thus killed, a great uproar arose amidst his panic-stricken forces. The soldiers, covered all over with blood, left all their weapons there on the field and began to make the boomba sound, a piteous cry with mouth and hands as a sign of danger, and fled back to their Raja Shumbha. He, the tormentor of his foes, then asked them coming, "Where is Nishumbha now? Why have you fled from the field?" Evidently he had lost sight of his younger brother in the confusion of the battle. Thus hearing the Raja's words, they bowed down and said, "O Raja, your brother Nishumbha lies dead on the battlefield. O Raja, the Devi killed all the Danava warriors that attended your brother. Only we are left and have come here to give you the information. O Raja, Nishumbha has been killed by the weapons of the Devi. We think you ought not to go to the battle. Know this as certain that the lady, the highest cause of this universe, has come here to destroy the Danavas, the object being to serve the cause of the Devas. This lady is not an ordinary woman. She is the supreme force. Her doings are inconceivable. What more can be said than the fact that the Devas themselves never can know her? This Devi can assume various forms. She is the origin of Maya. She is very clever. She is adorned with various ornaments and is holding various weapons in her hands. Her doings are incomprehensible. She is like a second night of dissolution at the end of the world. She is perfect, endowed with all auspicious signs, capable of going beyond the insurmountable. This wonderful Devi is serving the cause of the Devas, and the Devas from the sky are singing hymns to her. O Raja, it is now your paramount duty to fly away and save your life. If you live, you may have the chance for gaining victory when the time will turn favorable. There is no doubt in this. It is time that makes a strong man weak, and it is the same time that makes a weak man strong again and stimulates him for victory under more auspicious circumstances. Time makes a generous donor a beggar, and it is time that makes the same beggar again a generous donor. Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesha, Indra, and other devas are all under the sway of time. So time is the sovereign of all. Therefore, O Raja, wait for this time. Now time is favorable to the devas and inimical to you. Therefore, time is now destroying the Daityas. But the course of time is not the same throughout. O Raja, the actions of time are various, no doubt. Time creates men and time destroys them. The time of creation is different from the time of destruction. This is evident to you before your eyes. See, when time was favorable to you, you subjected Indra and all other devas and made them pay taxes to you. And now time is unfavorable to you. So an ordinary weak woman is killing the powerful Danavas. Time, therefore, is doing favorable things and also unfavorable things. The host of devas, or the woman Kali, is not the cause thereof. O Raja, the present time is not favorable to you and the Daityas. Knowing this, do as you like. See, Indra, Vishnu, Varuna, Yama, and other prominent devas all fled before in battle, abandoning their weapons. So knowing this world is subject to the control of time, now you can retreat quickly and go to Patala. For if you live, in the future you will again get all pleasures, and if you be killed, your enemies will all be very glad and will roam everywhere fearlessly, singing propitious songs. And here ends the 30th chapter of the 5th book on the killing of Nishubha in Srimad Devi Bhagavatam, the Mahapuranam of 18,000 verses by Maharishi Veda Vyasa. And given the time, I think we can probably pause there and begin with the final battle with Shumbha at the start of next time.
Thanks so much, Devla.
Yeah, thank you guys all for coming.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Devika, do you have any questions? I have a couple.
Please go first. I'm just thinking which I wrote down lots, but I'm going to select
Good.
a couple, I think.
I know, right? Deep stories here. Shumba killed Kali, said it really quick, didn't give details. Shumba
Yes.
killed Kali.
He did not kill Kali. He struck at her as if to kill her.
Okay,
and
it said that. It said it, quote unquote, Shumba killed Kali.
Yes, the translator did say this. I believe this was a translator's error. Kali does continue showing up. However, it's true. Nishubha did strike Kali down, and at least for a while took her out of the fight. This is true.
Big difference.
Yes.
That's okay. Durga, right before killing Nishubha, drank nectar frequently.
Yes.
That's all it said.
Yes.
What was that nectar? Why did she? Was it some sort of course Amrit, or was it straight up whiskey?
Very often she does drink nectars that are explicitly said to be alcoholic, wine or mead or so on, right before a battle. Here, nectar would be translating amritam. But I do think that it's reasonable to take it as alcoholic or blended with something alcoholic, because many other times in this very Purana it refers to Ambika Devi drinking alcohol right before a fight or even in the midst of a battle like this. To sort of repeatedly it comes up that she likes to fight while tipsy. And very much enjoys consuming alcohol. This comes up repeatedly in the Devi Bhagavatam. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, so it's almost like, I mean, of course, alcohol, I don't, what was the scientific way of saying it, but extracts, or pulls out the essence of herbs and mushrooms or medicines when you put the medicine in an alcoholic tincture.
Sure.
Supposedly you get the most out, like some people would say you get the most out of the, so that just comes to mind of like, oh, amrit fermented, or like in a some sort of kind of a kombucha, like a
Yeah,
fermented
it could
kombucha
be a blend like
format.
that of amrita
It's
nectar
like
with some
20
sort of
proof.
yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah,
Cool.
and there's many places in the Shastras in the worship of the Devi. The Dakshinachara worshippers, the sattvic ones, don't usually make these offerings, but very often in the Shastras it explicitly prescribes offering alcohol to Devi in the in the in her rajasic and tamasic modes of worship. So she definitely has asked, particularly in battle moods like this, definitely uses alcohol. Yeah.
Amazing. And lastly, just cool to hear so cool to hear the story of Chamunda Devi
Oh
naming.
yeah. How she got the names.
Yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah, I've heard it described before as her stealing the names of her enemies and wearing them like a trophy. It's kind of like an ultimate domination to kill someone and take
Wow.
their names and wear them. And so she's called Chamunda, like she's wearing the names of Chanda and Munda like trophies after killing them. Yeah.
Cool. Like her famous demon head necklace.
Yeah. That she wears even the names of her foes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Epic.
Yeah.
I love that. It's like women marrying men, right, and taking their names, and
women killing men wearing the names of their victims.
Wow.
I love it. And I am, controversial comment, and also, I mean, I am I am also just thinking that oh, sorry, Andy, had you finished?
Totally. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you.
Otherwise, please come back in. But yeah, also I was just reflecting how in a world that has, where women have been oppressed and still are hugely, the scripture does exist, right? And men do read it, and I just wonder where in there. It's just reflecting on that.
Yeah.
I had to. Would you mind just clarifying a bit more? I'm still a bit confused. So we've got Devi, Ma, and then we've got Kalika. I'm a bit confused where she came from, like why there are two. Until now, I'd assumed that they were one.
Yeah, so in the entire story of Shumba and Nishumba, they are explicitly two, not one. One emerged out of the other. They were ultimately one. Kalika emerged out of Ambika Devi in this story, emerged out of the and then in fact even another form similar to Kali, Shivaduti Devi, the queen of jackals, again emerged out of the face of Ambika in her wrath. But no, the whole time, from even before the battle started, Ambika and Kalika came as two and sat together in the gardens of the demon city, where they started singing and taunting and drawing the demons' attention at the start of the story. They were always two. Ambika, so here the scripture mostly calls her Ambika or sometimes Chandika. Occasionally it has used the word Durga. In the centuries since this text was written, the name Durga has risen greatly in popularity, such that today common Hindus would probably more often use the name Durga than the name Ambika or Chandika. All of them are pretty well known. But she's the Durga form. So she's not black-skinned or horrifying in appearance, not in the typical form of Kali. And then Kali, she's the more beautiful, classically beautiful in a feminine way, warrior queen, and Kali side by side with her, simultaneously manifested in a separate body, is the horrifying vampiric cannibal goddess ravening over the battlefield and eating the dead, although there was one mention of them both doing that at one point, when even Chandika reached that point in rage that she was jumping on top of fallen asuras and eating them where they lay. But so they are both manifestations of the same paraprakriti, but they definitely are here manifested simultaneously as two in the expression of her lila. Yeah.
Thank you. And the other thing was it definitely the wives and the Shaktis, or was it, because when you started naming them, then it sounded like it was the Shaktis, not the wives, and I was a bit confused there.
It mentioned some of both. The ones that it specifically described were not, where it went into the descriptions of their mounts and their weapons and so on, were not wives. You're right, they were Shaktis. Right. Specifically, they were the Matrika Shaktis. The Matrika Shaktis are a specific set of tantric goddesses, generally considered rather dangerous, and they're worshipped in special tantric rites in many temples, not very often worshipped at home. Not very many Hindus worship them at home. They're more worshipped in tantric temples. It's a set of sort of dangerous and violently expressed Shaktis of different devas. Those were the ones whose specific forms were described.
What were they called again? What was the name you used?
The Matrika Shaktis. You'll often hear the Sapta Matrikas when 7 main ones are formed. Less commonly, but still fairly commonly, you'll hear Ashta Matrikas, and there's 8 of them. But if you actually count up all the different manifestations that show up in different scriptures, there's far more than 8. But it's interesting in that Matrika literally means mothers, but they're not at all in what you would think of as a motherly aspect. They're in a wild and violent aspect that's considered dangerous even for devotees to invoke without proper tantric rites. But the Matrikas is what they're referred to as a set of goddesses.
Cool. Wow.
It makes me think of the maternal instinct to protect their offspring, right? Like that rage.
Yes.
Be evoked.
Exactly. Yes. Mother is in the sense that when their children and devotees, in this case the devas, are being oppressed, that it's the mother in the aspect of her child is in danger and she will just go into a berserk fury and kill whatever is threatening her child.
Yeah. Thank you. And just the other thing I wanted to feedback was last week, I remember you mentioned, I'm going to paraphrase, but it was along the lines of when we do something, I think to remove a feeling, then it can lead to intoxication. But when we do it because that's what our inner voice is saying, then it's healthy, basically. And so I've been looking out for that during my week in myself and in my friends, family, patients, everyone. And it is really, I've noticed it quite profoundly that there's a huge, you can do the same action, but with different intentions. So one is to, in resistance, in service of resistance and non-acceptance, and that kind of, you can become dependent on that or have a need. Whereas the other one is, I accept what's happening and I choose to do this because I feel it's healthy or helpful or whatever. And it's, very different. So just wanted to share that.
Yeah, nice.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you guys all for coming.
Thank you, Devila. Thanks, Devika.
Thank you. Thank you, Auntie Devila, everyone.
Yeah.
Haribol. Jai Ma.
Jai Ma.
Jai Ma.